My whiskey loving friend, welcome to another whiskey review with me, Rosemary Moon, here in Orkney, a cluster of some 70 islands off the north east coast of Scotland. And it is wild today, wet and windy. So what better to do about 4:30 in the afternoon than drink whiskey and tell you all about it. So, I've done quite a lot of non-age statements just recently, and this is another. And I make no apology for that because there are some absolutely wonderful, small, young, independent distilleries getting going in Scotland at the moment. And hopefully that means that the profits stay in Scotland. And this spirit is just so incredibly fruity on the nose. It's young and vibrant. Oh, I was like that once. But it's just got so much to offer. And what am I talking to you about? Well, it's this chap. It's from Glenwyvis. Can you see that? There we are. I've just worked out which end of the iPhone the camera is at. It's their second release, and it's what they're calling Snappily 2018, which I guess is when it was distilled. And let me see. I went to Glenwyvis in 2016 when they were literally just cutting the sods and the foundations were being laid, and it was up on the hillside above Dingwall, which is not the most picturesque town in the Highlands, but it is a town with a sense of belonging and being and community. And community is the main thing. Just gotta have another nose of that lovely, lovely fruity spirit. So Dingwall was kind of in the middle of a couple of the great old distilleries which are no longer with us. And it was decided to try to crowdfund a community distillery. So it'd be owned by the community and people could buy shares, and the people who lived there could buy the most shares, and people like me who was living in Sussex in the south of England could buy a lesser number of shares. And there was absolutely no way in which I was ever going to own a whiskey distillery if it wasn't like this. So of course I bought some shares, and I'm delighted to have done so. So having actually been there in 2016, I knew it was going to happen. And I think about probably 2014, I recorded a video in a hotel garden where I was staying for work, looking across at the mountain and saying, this is what's going to happen, and this, that, and the other. And probably you, dear viewer, and maybe 4 of your friends watched it. It wasn't the most popular video I've ever done. But now, let me tell you, Glenwyvis is happening. This is their second release, and I mean, it's not a complex nose, not by any stretch of the imagination. It is fruity and inviting. It's obviously young. It's bright. What am I getting? Just a hint of apples, more like apple blossom in an orchard. Touch of sweetness. Yeah, touch of sweetness, sort of more of the, raisins, that sort of thing. So, kind of apple crumble, maybe, something like that. It's 46.5%. So we've seen this before. Younger whiskies, they tend to have a higher ABV, alcohol by volume, than older whiskies because they need that little bit of help to strut their stuff. Let's give it a taste. I know you want me to. Well, this is amazingly clever. Now, obviously, it's not the first time I've tasted it. You can look at the level in the bottle to know that. This is another one of those, I better make a video about it now or it'll be gone type videos. Huge amount of appley notes at the bottom, which are very mouth-watering, but followed through with pepper and nutmeg and spice and a good bit of tannin, an interesting use of wood, obviously mainly bourbon barrels. But there is this influence of something sweeter and more raisiny. And in fact, there is some use of sherry cask as well in this. Hogsheads, I think I'm right in saying. And it's just a very, very clever partnership because it's not trying to be equal. It's just backing it up and it's giving it some gravitas, and it is the sultanas in your apple crumble. It is absolutely that kind of comfort and freshness and well-being, but zest for getting up and getting on that comes from an apple crumble and custard. Actually, I think this would be fantastic with that. So, still this really interesting tannic effect on the side of my tongue, but a big, big fruitiness. And as I say, that lovely balance. When I cook apples for a pudding like that, I always put some lemon zest in with them and a little knob of butter, and it just adds such a lot of flavour to it. And it's almost like that would be a perfect combination in here. Get so much in my whiskey videos, don't you, dear viewer? Oh, there is definitely a touch of the kind of the apple Danish or apple cinnamon pastry, except it's not really cinnamon. There's that buttery, spicy apple, but with currants and an extra richness to it. And this spirit is so fruity. I've mentioned the Good Spirits Company before in my reviews, and although I'm a shareholder in Glenwyvis, it took the incredible Rod at Good Spirits to remind me to check out what they were doing again, because I was in the shop and he was just giving me my usual run round of everything that they had that he thought that I should know about. And he went to the Glenwyvis that was piled up there and he said, oh, it's just so fruity. And I 100% agree. I mean, it is delicious. And this young distillery are going out doing a lot of shows at the moment, whiskey festivals. I know they were recently at the Fife Whiskey Festival. And again, it's just something that comes over and over and over again. The fruitiness of this spirit. And it is the clever use of that little bit of hogshead stored whiskey, matured whiskey, that is making this glorious spirit in the glass happen. I've put a tad of water in here just because I think I should when I'm doing these reviews. I wouldn't choose to do that for drinking. But let's just see what happens. Interesting. Possibly I should eat my words. It does release the nose. I'm getting a lot more on the nose now than I was doing with the neat whiskey. Apples, blossom, pastry shop, all of that. I've told you about it. I want to drink it. Now it makes it very smooth. I like the, and it actually brings out more spice at the end on the finish. I like the nose better with water. I like the taste better without it. But hey, life's a compromise. Now, I do know that you lovely people have been watching my Loch reviews. And we were having a whiskey supper with some of my whiskey friends the other evening. And I had both the Glenwyvis and the Loch Harvest Edition out. And we were tasting them side by side, both very young, no age, etc., etc. So this has got kind of just about 4 years on it, but they don't say it, so maybe it's not. Both whiskies and distilleries which are fantastic. And you might think, well, you know, surely they're going to be much of a muchness after that very short maturation time. But no, not a bit of it. This is the Loch Lee. It's slightly darker in colour. It's a bit more complex and slightly, I mean, it's got more different woods in it. So it's got a port influence in here as well. And that alters it quite a lot because, of course, you know that port flavour, very deep fortified fruit, fresh fruit. Whereas this, it's about sultanas and raisins. No, it's about sultanas. Who said raisins? That's the first time that's been said today. I would say this is the easier spirit. And as a shareholder, I just can't tell you how excited I am for when we're, you know, 2018, I think this was distilled. 2028, we'll hopefully have a 10-year-old. I can't wait for that. You know, maybe they'll release an 8-year-old. I don't know. I think probably that this has got so much going on that they might try and keep it. This is just guessing. It's not, you know, any AGM minutes I've seen or anything like that. I can't wait to taste this coming of age. So it's the Glenwyvis 2018. And it retails in the UK at about £60. I'm noticing at the moment that an awful lot of whiskies are retailing at about £60, or whiskies that I'm interested in. The Loch Lee, do you remember the bottle? Here it is. That's £10 cheaper at about £50. I actually think this is absolutely worth the extra tenner. And I would seriously recommend that you try and find it and have a go at it. That's a kind of a different way of saying buy yourself a bottle and enjoy a few drams of it. As a community-owned distillery, they have had offers to buy them outright, but that's not what it's about. It's about ploughing back into Dingwall, and I shan't be bothered if I never see any money out of it. To think that, you know, my few shillings has helped to get something like this off the ground makes me very, very proud indeed. So, Slangevar, and let's have more community-owned distilleries. Until next time. My very own whiskey. How wonderful.